Okay, this is our tiny cabin. That's Maisie, sweet Maisie. Frank's not here because he's got an eye issue and he's very drugged up right now. We're not having a good day with Frank. Okay, the first thing I want to talk about, this is the good, the bad, and the ugly. So I put this cabin on railroad ties. So the 2x10 frame sits on top of the leveled railroad ties. And these are actually railroad ties with the metal inside of them. So I'm not a builder, I'm not a carpenter, I'm not a cabinet maker. I am just a person that has a lot of experience in a lot of different things. As you see on the YouTube, my videos, there's a lot of different things that I'm involved in. So we put the 2x10 pressure treated frame floor joists onto the railroad ties, threw some gravel underneath the railroad ties, and so fast forward 10 years, possibly 10 years, there's a soft spot in the floor. So I took my skill saw and cut a hole in the floor, right over there behind the carpet. And so I looked down in there, and the floor joists are rotting. So for whatever reason, I did every other floor joist non-pressure treated. So, and I didn't think it would be any problem whatsoever because the sill sits on the railroad ties and that's pressure treated. So for some reason, I didn't have enough floor joists up here and use non-pressure treated. So I had to cut this whole floor out. You can see where the seam is right there. I did that like a foot away from the wall all the way around. And then I had to go in with pressure treated floor joists, 2x10s, and replace the floor joists. And the reason why those floor joists were rotting was because I didn't put a vapor barrier down below. So, and I didn't think it would be any kind of issue. And I'm not a house builder. I'm not a carpenter. I'm not a contractor. Like I said before, I didn't know. And I was a little bit impatient. I was a younger person. I was a little bit impatient. So I ended up replacing all the floor joists, and then I came back in with 3/4 inch plywood, and I filled tongue and groove, and I filled in the area in the center there, and actually put some cross pieces in and made it more sturdy than what it was before. But the vapor barrier is the key situation. And then I had to put gutters because the water would come down off the roof and then leach underneath the cabin, and that was part of the problem. So I put gutters up there too. So that was the major disaster that we had. So other than that, it hasn't been, and the reason why I didn't put it up on tiers like most people do is because this is a fairly large cabin. This is 15 by 16, and I was worried that critters were going to get underneath the in the crawl space, and I wouldn't be able to get them out because it's 16 feet across. So anyway, that's what I was worried about. But other than that, it's been a good system. It has worked out quite well. But I also had to put larger vents along the 2x10s around the outside to get some airflow in there. And in fact, I kept that square open, or I didn't screw it down, and just recently looked in there and it was a-okay. So the fold-out table, it does not need to be this large. We have never sat at this table. We have chairs, but we have never sat at this table because we're usually around the campfire. And we use this as a catch-all to put our junk on, but this table could be half the size or I could have made it into some sort of like Murphy bed or something. So I made the table. My niece made the sign, and I made the latch for the table. So the table swings up, and then you twist that latch, and it holds the table up. And then the legs fold back as well. I made the doors out of 2x6 tongue and groove. I just lag bolted them 3 across, top and bottom. Put a little sealer on the inside, painted the outside. They're large doors, and I didn't want anybody, they're large and sturdy. I didn't want anybody breaking into this place. I made my own little striker plates out of aluminum. And we have the roll-up screen to keep the bugs out. That was actually buried in the dirt back here because it was originally logging road that went through here, and they blasted through the rock back there. One of the other nieces made that. That was out of all old barnwood. I made the frame for the chalkboard to give us some notes on what needs to be done. I made my own little holder for the rope that goes up to the pulley, and then the ladder folds up. I made the ladder out of barnwood. I made so it's just a dowel going through there. I drew a hole in the ladder on either side, and I made those little brackets, lag bolted them in. I've lag bolted practically everything. So you just drill your small hole that the lag bolt will go through, and then you drill the larger bolt, or the larger hole, to stick the large washer in there as well. But you got to drill the smaller one first, and then you drill the bigger one, and then pound it in a little bit with a hammer to get it started, and that baby's not going anywhere. The loft, that's just a 4x6 on the outside with a 2x4 on the inside that's just screwed in there. And then I got 4x4s as, I guess, 4 joists going across, and a 2x4 screwed to the wall on that side. I was a little bit worried about this thing sagging, but it has not, because this is a 15-foot span, so I thought it might sag. The stained glass is something that my wife's grandfather made, so I kind of incorporated it into the cabinet that I built, and I made the handle for it. So it's just a block of wood on the inside. We got the fuse box in there, and this just runs off of a generator. Like I said, so I wanted it to be as organic as possible in here. So this is just pre-primed trim board. So one side of the board is flat and smooth. The other side is rough sawed. So I kind of wanted this to look shabby chic, I guess. Look like a barn on the inside. And so that worked out great. And those are fairly inexpensive, whatever they are, fir boards. We insulated it and wired it. And like I said, I want this to be, there's no shiny surfaces in here, because I just felt like if there's a shiny surface, it's going to collect moisture. It's going to lay on top of that shiny surface. So I wanted to keep this as free flowing as possible. There is no vapor barrier behind the boards. And I was terrified of mold. So 13 years later, this cabin has been erected for 13 years. That's kind of a dingy looking. So we've got about 5 of these things, these moisture accumulators, and you put the crystals in the top here, and then the moisture accumulates in the bottom. So if I leave these moisture accumulators empty and come back about 3 weeks later, they are full. They are up to the brim during the winter time. because this is not heated. It's an off-grid cabin. So, and we have had not one iota of mold in this place, and I'm shocked. So either the moisture crystals containers and the fact that there is no shiny paint in here, I don't know. But we have had not one bit of mold. The windows, I wanted them to be small so people don't break in. That was another issue that I was worried about. The front, I want a big window in the front. So I'm going to put a deck off the front that's probably, I don't know, 16 feet out, and then run the whole span of the front of the cabin. And then I'm going to make a big metal framed awning, I guess, that comes out probably 10 feet or maybe 7 or 8 feet, and then it hinges. So it's going to fold down over the door and over the window, and then you can lock it. So you can have a fire pit down on the deck, and then you've got, if it's raining or something, you've got cover over the top. And then it's kind of a fail-safe as far as if we put a big window right there, which I am, to get some more light in it, it will be safe, and the door will be safe as well. But I don't think anybody's going to kick. That's why I made the doors so they open outward, so people can't kick them in. Wood stove, we got that for free. I refurbished it, wire wheeled it down and painted it with barbecue paint and a little steel wool on the chrome. I love the wood stove. It's a little bit big for the space, but the one thing that I miss is I wish it had a glass door. So I wish I would have looked into getting a used stove with a glass door, because they're pretty cheap, because used wood stoves, not a lot of people are using wood stoves. We've got the corrugated metal going around, super easy to do. It keeps it nice and cool on the wall. We've got the stack going out there, lights wired. I just laid brick down underneath it and made my own little 2x trim that goes around it. And luckily I didn't mortar the bricks in, because I ended up tearing the whole floor out to replace the floor joists. What else? So we just take the rope out of the handle, so fold it down with the pulley, and then unhinge, unhook this, and start the rain out. And then this back, and then we've got a ladder, and then this goes back into its place. So, Maisie, come on, it's raining out. Come on, get in here. Poor baby can't get wet. There's the little valve system. So yeah, and I not too long ago, a couple of years ago, put the window in, and that adds a lot of light. We made the trusses, the 12-12 pitch. I'm so glad that we did that, because you can actually stand up here in the center. So it's just 4x4s, and I put another section of 4x4 in the center, and then lag bolted on both sides with half-inch not half-inch, but 3/4 inch plywood, and then just bolted them down onto the sill, and that's worked out well. We've got a little bed up here, got the oil lamp, it's wired up here as well. So yeah, just painted the floor, non-shiny paint, the fire extinguisher just in case. The one thing I would have done as far as the ladder is concerned is because we never fold this ladder up. It's always down. I think that I would have ran a small staircase up to the loft, because this, I'm not getting any younger and my wife isn't either. It makes me nervous every time I come off this ladder. If we were to fall off here and hit our head on the sink, that would be not good. And on top of that, if there was a little staircase going up that would just come up right over here and up, the dogs could come upstairs. But they have a comfy couch to sleep on. The sink situation, that just goes down into a bucket down below. I don't think you can see that because it's dark. I would have done that differently. I would have just run the pipe all the way down through the floor and dug a hole and put some rock in it, and then punched a hole in the vapor barrier, because there is so little water coming out. All we do is brush our teeth, wash our hands. We're not living out here, and so there's a very small volume of water going into that hole. Got the bottle opener for beverages, radio, for entertainment. We've got an old vintage broom holder. Okay, so let's go out to the bathhouse. It's raining, so we got to be quick. Wood chips are essential, so we aren't tracking dirt all over the place. It's just a flat roof bathhouse with an overhang. I made the door out here, 2x6 tongue and groove, lag bolts together. These I construct at home with the corrugated roofing, and then so it comes up here as a whole piece, and then I just lag bolt it and washer it in a couple different places. What else? The toilet. So we have a regular toilet, and this system has worked out great. This is a mini dozer that is going to hopefully make me some obstacles on my trail / motocross course. So I just got done refurbishing this thing. It was a basket case. It's got hydraulics, tracks. We have the garden tools. I put this awning up also, or I guess you'd call it a carport. So, and I constructed this whole thing at home as well, and then put the roofing on it and brought the whole piece up on the utility trailer. And then, so there's a cleat that so I took like a 2x6 and then set my table saw at a 45-degree angle and cut down the center of that 2x6. So one portion of it attaches to the bathhouse, the other portion attaches to the carport, and then so you've already got that attached to the bathhouse, and this has a piece on it as well. So you just set the thing up and onto that cleat with the 45s connecting each other, and it's an easy and quick way to do things. And then I just have, you put your post, sink your post down ahead of time, loosely, and then I just have a little brace up there that the post sits on. So you just put the whole thing up there because it's fairly lightweight, and then put it in your cleat. Okay, so it's raining right now, so this is the perfect example. The water is running into the rain barrel. The biggest issue I have is if you were to do this system, it's just a chintzy gutter with a screen on it. I would try to find some sort of like a leaf guard type gutter, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this hole out because this is a fairly coarse mesh. I'm going to cut this hole out bigger and get some fine screen to screw back in here. So like you see there, the junk is accumulating. So you will have a lot, I guess, smaller junk going into the rain barrel, because that's the only thing. I gotta clean this thing out every year, so the big chunks or so we start out fresh. If there's a finer screen up here, then you won't have any of those big chunks going down into your rain barrel, i.e. nothing will be going into your toilet. And the toilet has worked great. So this has usually got a splitter on it, so the other hose goes out in front of the cabin and drains during the winter time when we're not using it. And then the barrel is not going to get frozen full of water. So this hose, just a regular garden hose, goes into the toilet. Every once in a while, I need to, when we come up here, I need to unscrew this. I blow on the end of it to get the water moving in there because there's a little bit of debris or something. But really, the thing has been fairly hassle-free. So, there we go. The toilet flushes just like a normal toilet. And we've never had to replace the float and the valve. So that's pretty good. So and I really didn't put any thought into the rain barrel / toilet situation. I made the toilet paper hanger. I made the tiny sink, the porcelain bowl. We just have a little water container there. We've got a medicine cabinet. Use the same half inch by, it's probably 3/4 by 6 by 3/4 trim board. Nieces. I made the handle to hang the sun shower. Some shabby hooks. And then just put so that just drains down into a hole. That was a fairly deep hole that we dug. The toilet goes down into a hole, fairly deep hole. We're not staying up here together as a family all that often. So I'm up here all the time. But I'm not necessarily using the toilet because I'm only up here for the day. When we come up here for weekends and stuff, then we're using the toilet. But there's not a lot of volume going down into that hole. So, there we go. Things I would do differently, things that I like, and it's a dreary, we're just coming out of winter. The ferns and stuff are not growing up yet, but we'll see here in a couple weeks. There will be an explosion of new growth. But anyway, thanks for watching. Tiny cabin, tiny house, do's and don'ts, yada yada yada.